My daughter Nia leaned over me, her breath warm on my face. "He's completely gone," she whispered to her husband Evan. "We just need his signature." I kept my eyes closed. I kept my breathing even. I let them think I was still the deaf, helpless old man I had been for the last 3 weeks. But 5 hours ago, a miracle happened. I could hear every single treacherous word. Before I tell you what I did next, let me know in the comments where you're watching this story from. And please hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to deal with family who thought you were weak only to find out you were the one holding all the cards. My name is Josiah King. I'm 71 years old. My wife, Maya, God rest her soul, she's been gone 5 years. For 45 years, she was my rock. After she passed, the silence in this house was heavy. But 3 weeks ago, that silence became absolute. A virus I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy tore through me. The fever was biblical. When it finally broke, it took my hearing with it. Stone, deaf. The doctor said the nerves were probably fried. "At your age, Mr. King," one young specialist told me, his mouth moving slowly as if I were a child, "you should prepare for a silent life." My daughter Nia and her husband Evan insisted on moving in. "We need to take care of you, Daddy," she'd said, writing it on a little white notepad she carried everywhere. So they moved into the house Maya and I built. The house where every floorboard holds a memory. Their care was heavy. This wasn't the Nia I raised. This was a strained, impatient woman I barely recognized. She's my blood, my only child, but the way she'd sigh, a deep, rattling sigh of pure frustration every time I didn't understand her exaggerated gestures. She'd hold up the notepad and write, "Time for your pills," pressing the pen down so hard it almost tore the paper. Evan, her husband, he was worse. He's a white man who always seemed uncomfortable in our home, like he was doing us a favor just by being here. He'd help me to my chair, his hand grabbing my arm too tight, his fingers digging into my bicep. He'd slap me on the back, a heavy, painful slap. "How's it hanging, old man?" He'd mouth, his face a mask of fake cheer. When they thought I wasn't looking, I'd catch them exchanging glances. That look, the one that says, "How much longer do we have to do this?" They'd place my food on the table, not gently, but with a thud. A thud I couldn't hear, but I could feel. The vibration of their annoyance. They treated me like a piece of furniture they were tired of dusting. I felt like a burden, a broken object. Then this morning, 4 a.m., I was staring at the ceiling, just existing in the suffocating silence. And then, something. A faint tick, tick, tick. It was the old grandfather clock in the hallway. Maya's father built that clock. I hadn't heard it in 3 weeks. I sat bolt upright in bed, my heart hammered against my ribs. Was I dreaming? Was this a memory? Then I heard it again, clearer this time. Tick, tick, tick. I swung my legs out of bed. My bare feet touched the hardwood floor. Creak. The floorboard creaked. I heard it. I actually heard it. I put my head in my hands as the world rushed back in. The low, deep hum of the refrigerator downstairs. The whistle of the wind brushing against the glass of the window. A miracle. A complete, total miracle. Tears streamed down my face. Joy. Pure, unfiltered joy. My first instinct was to run. To find Naya. To shout, "I can hear your daddy, can hear you." I stood up, my hand on the doorknob, ready to pull it open and share the news. But I stopped. I heard footsteps in the hall, soft, secretive. I quickly, silently got back into bed. I pulled the covers up to my chin. I closed my eyes, forcing my breathing to become deep and even. Just in time. The door to my bedroom eased open. A sliver of light cut across the dark floor. I heard the whisper. It was Nia. Her voice no longer strained or written on a notepad, but sharp and cold as ice. "Still sleeping, like a log." Evan's voice, low and gravelly, replied from the hallway. "Good. Just leave him. Let's go make coffee and talk." The door clicked shut. I lay there frozen. Not from the cold, but from the ice in her tone. Like a log. Why whisper? Why creep into my room? If they were my loving caregivers, why wouldn't they just come in? Why talk about me instead of to me, even if they thought I was deaf? Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and in that moment I made a decision. The miracle wasn't for them. Not yet. It was for me. I would stay deaf. I would stay the log. I needed to know what my daughter and her husband talked about when they thought the old man couldn't hear. I stayed perfectly still. I did not even dare to swallow. My room was dark, but the rest of the house was slowly coming to life. I could hear the click, click, click of the gas stove igniting in the kitchen, the sound of water running through the old pipes, the scrape of a metal spoon against a ceramic mug. Coffee. They were making coffee. I focused, straining to catch every sound. This was my only advantage. They thought I was a broken old man, a deaf log, as my daughter had so lovingly put it. But I was awake and I was listening. The floorboards in the hallway creaked. They were moving around. I heard the refrigerator door open and close, the clinking of plates. They were settling in for breakfast, settling in to discuss their morning, to plan their day. And I knew deep in my gut that I was the plan. I was the topic of conversation. The silence I had lived in for 3 weeks was now my greatest weapon. They were comfortable in their secrecy, never imagining that the walls now had ears. My ears. I heard Evan clear his throat, a low, gravelly sound. "Did you check on him?" he asked. Nia scoffed. The sound was sharp, like a glass breaking. "I just told you. He's sleeping like a log. He won't be up for hours. Even when he is up, what's he going to do?" "Stare at us." There was a pause. I heard her set her mug down hard on the kitchen counter. "God, Evan, I am so tired of this," she said. Her voice. It was not the strained, high-pitched voice she used when she wrote on her notepad for me. It was low, cold, and full of venom. "I am so sick of pretending. The fake smiles, the patting his hand, the shouting. I'm exhausted." "It's almost over," Evan said soothingly. "It's not almost over," she snapped. Yesterday was the limit. I brought him the bank statement, the one from his bank. I sat him down, I pointed at the balance, I pointed at the date. I even wrote on the stupid notepad, "We need to discuss this." And you know what he did? What? He just stared. He stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. Then he looked at me with those big, dumb, empty eyes. He smiled, and he patted my hand, like I was the child. I wanted to scream. She took a sharp breath. "I'm serious, Evan. Is he deaf or is he just stupid? How can one person be this useless? My God." Useless. The word hit me harder than a physical blow. This was my daughter, the little girl I had taught to ride a bike, the young woman I had walked down the aisle. She thought I was useless. She thought I was stupid. I held my breath, fighting the urge to get up, to storm into that kitchen and demand an answer. But I knew I could not. Not yet. I had to hear the rest. I had to know why. Evan's voice was lower, calmer, the voice of a snake charming its prey. "Patience, baby. Just a little more patience. All that matters is the signature." "He will not sign," Nia shot back. "He just stares. He does not understand." "He does not have to understand," Evan said. That's the beauty of it. That's why this whole deafness thing, as awful as it sounds, is a blessing in disguise. I felt my blood run cold. A blessing. "What do you mean?" Nia asked. "I mean," Evan continued, his voice dripping with condescension, "that we do not need his signature if he's not competent to give it. I spoke to Dr. Klein yesterday after we left his office. I called him privately. And he's completely on board. He said this sudden, profound hearing loss combined with his age is the perfect basis to file for an emergency conservatorship. We just need to prove he can't manage his own affairs. And you just said it yourself. He can't even understand a simple bank statement. He's confused. He's vulnerable. So, we get conservatorship?" Nia asked, her voice lifting with a sudden greedy hope. "Exactly. I become his conservator. I manage his assets. All of his assets. The first thing I'll do is sign the transfer papers for the house, listing it as a necessary sale to pay for his future care. By the time he figures out what happened, he'll be settled into a nice quiet room at Shady Pines. And we'll be settled here. My own house. The house I built for Maya. They were going to use my medical crisis against me, twist it into a legal weapon, and lock me away. Dr. Klein, that man had been my doctor for 15 years. He had eaten at my table. He had complimented Maya's garden, and he was willing to sell my sanity for a fee. We need to hurry up, though. Nia said, her voice now urgent, all pretense of exhaustion gone, replaced by pure, naked panic. The bank called again. The minimum payment on the Amex is due on the 1st. It's $60,000, Evan. $60,000. Where are we going to get that? We'll get it from the house, he said. And what about the $40,000 you lost? She hissed. That genius crypto investment that was supposed to save us. You just had to listen to your idiot friends from the golf club. That money is gone, Evan. Gone. I'll get it back, he muttered. No, you will not. This house, Nia said, and I heard her slap the kitchen counter. This house is the only thing that can save us. It's worth at least $800,000. It's more than enough. We just need to get our hands on it. We need to get him out. $60,000. $40,000. They were drowning in debt. This was not just casual greed. This was desperation. I lay in that bed, but the world had tilted. This was not my family. These were two strangers, two predators who had been living under my roof, eating my food, smiling at my face while sharpening their knives. My deafness had not been a tragedy. It had been their opportunity. My uselessness was their financial plan. They were not my caregivers. They were my captors. And the love I thought I had, the family I was clinging to after Maya's death, it was all a lie, a cold, calculated $100,000 lie. They wanted to strip me of my home, my dignity, and my freedom. They wanted to put me in a home and leave me to rot. My own daughter, my son-in-law. I closed my eyes, but this time I was not pretending to sleep. I was planning. I waited an hour. I waited until I heard the clatter of dishes being put in the dishwasher, a clear sign their secret meeting was over. I took a deep breath, pictured the face of a lost child, and pushed open my bedroom door. I shuffled my feet on the hardwood floor, making more noise than necessary. I kept my gaze down, my shoulders slumped. I walked into the kitchen and made a small, vague grunting sound pointing toward my mouth. Nia turned around. Her face, which had been cold and hard moments before, instantly shifted. It was a grotesque mask of pity. "Oh, Daddy, you're awake." "Are you hungry?" she mouthed, exaggerating every syllable. I just stared at her, blinking slowly. "Food, Daddy," she said louder. Slower. She pantomimed eating. Evan leaned against the counter, smirking, watching the show. Nia sighed that frustrated sigh again, grabbed a bowl and scooped in a lump of cold gray oatmeal. She slammed it on the table in front of me. I looked at the bowl. I looked at her. I slowly picked up the spoon, but I let my hand tremble. I missed my mouth on the first try, dropping a glob of oatmeal onto the placemat. "For God's sake," Evan muttered, thinking I could not hear. Nia shot him a look, then turned back to me. Her smile stretched painfully tight. "It's okay, Daddy. Just eat." I stared at the oatmeal, then at her, and gave her the most vacant, stupid smile I could manage. The smile of the log they thought I was. She looked away, disgusted. The performance had begun. I ate the cold oatmeal. It tasted like ash, but I swallowed every bite. They thought I was their prisoner. They thought I was their problem. They thought I was poor. They are such fools. Nia grew up in this house, but she never truly saw it. She never saw me. She saw Dad, the simple man who ran a small construction outfit. She never bothered to ask what King Co. Construction actually did. She never knew that when I sold King Co. 10 years ago, I did not sell it for a few $100,000. I sold it for $35 million. She has no idea that her poor, deaf, stupid father has $28 million liquid sitting in trusts managed by a man she has never even heard of. My lawyer, my executor, my only true friend, Mr. Patel. Maya and I, we made a decision a long time ago. We grew up with nothing in Birmingham. We saw what new money did to people. We saw how it poisoned families, turning children into entitled monsters. We decided Nia would not grow up that way. We lived simply. We stayed in this house. I drove the same truck for 15 years. Maya shopped at the grocery store, not the high-end boutiques. We wanted to teach Nia the value of work, the dignity of earning your own way, the strength of character. I see now how badly I failed. My attempt to protect her from greed only made her desperate for the things she thought she never had. And Evan, that parasitic leech. He married her thinking she was middle class, but now he is drowning in debt and sees my house, this $800,000 piece of land, as his salvation. They are planning to destroy me, to lock me away for what amounts to a rounding error in my accounts. The irony is so bitter it almost makes me laugh. They are fighting over the crumbs while the whole banquet sits in front of them, completely invisible. I finished the oatmeal and pushed the bowl away. Evan saw his chance to play. He walked over and dropped a glossy brochure on the table in front of me. "Look at this old man!" he shouted. I did not even have to pretend to be deaf. He was yelling loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I looked down. The brochure cover was bright and cheerful. It showed smiling seniors, all white playing cards. The title read, "Shady Pines, Your Golden Years Retreat." Shady Pines, the place they mentioned in the kitchen. Evan tapped the picture aggressively with his finger. "Look nice, right? We're thinking of sending you on a little vacation, a new home." I looked at him with my practiced, vacant stare. "He doesn't understand," Nia said. Her voice was flat. She was already complicit. "Oh, he will," Evan sneered. He opened the brochure. He pointed to a picture of a small, sterile-looking room. "This one's got your name on it, Josiah. See, a nice window. You can watch the birds. You'll be with other people just like you. Confused. Useless." Nia flinched. "Evan, don't say that." Evan laughed, a short barking sound. "What? He can't hear me? Who cares? It's the truth." He looked back at me, his eyes filled with contempt. "You've been living off us long enough. Time to go." He slammed the brochure shut and tossed it in my lap. I just sat there. My blood was boiling, but my face was a mask of placid confusion. I picked up the brochure. I stared at the smiling seniors, then I slowly, deliberately put it in my pajama pocket. Evan loved that. He thought I was accepting it. He nudged Nia. "See? He likes it." I needed to get them out of the house. I shuffled to the notepad on the counter. I picked up the pen and wrote, "Need sleep." I pointed to my bedroom. Yeah, go," Evan waved dismissively. "Go take your nap." Nia said, "I'll be here, Daddy. Just rest." I went to my room and closed the door. I waited. 10 minutes later, I heard the front door open and close. I crept to the window. I saw them getting into Evan's car. They were laughing. They were probably going out to celebrate their brilliance or maybe to see Dr. Klein to finalize the papers. The moment the car turned the corner, I moved. I was not a 71-year-old invalid. I was a man with a mission. I went straight to Evan's laptop, which he had foolishly left open on the dining room table. He was arrogant. He was sloppy. I did not need a password. His email was open. It took me less than 30 seconds. The Sent folder. An email to Dr. Klein. "Thanks for the consult. The $5,000 will be transferred as soon as the house is ours." An email to a name I did not recognize. "The loan shark is threatening to break my legs. I need an extension. I'll have the $40,000 in 2 weeks." The trash folder. Emails from online gambling sites. Confirmations of lost bets. Tens of thousands of dollars. He was not just in debt. He was desperate. I pulled out my other phone. The simple old flip phone I kept in my nightstand for emergencies. Maya always called it my paranoid phone. God bless her. They had taken my smartphone, but they did not know about this one. I opened the camera function. I took photos of every single email, every threat, every gambling loss. I had the proof. Now I just needed to get it to Patel. I spent the next 2 days in my room playing the part of the fading old man. I'd shuffle out, eat my gray oatmeal, and shuffle back. Nia and Evan left me alone, busy with their own whispering and planning. Then on Wednesday morning, Nia came in. She didn't knock. She just opened the door. She held up the white notepad. Her handwriting was large and loopy. "We're going to the doctor. 10 a.m. Dr. Klein." She smiled that wide, fake smile. It looked like it hurt her face. I blinked at the notepad, pretending to struggle to read it. I looked up at her, my face a mask of confusion. "Doctor," she mouthed louder, pointing at the paper. "Klein." I gave a slow, shaky nod. Good. I knew exactly who Dr. Klein was. He'd been my physician for 15 years. He'd been to the house for dinner when Maya was alive. He'd complimented her roses. I wondered how much it cost to buy a man's loyalty. The car ride was silent. I sat in the back, slumped against the window. Nia drove, and Evan sat in the passenger seat. They weren't whispering. They didn't need to. They thought I was in a world of silence. I watched the city go by, the city I helped build, the city they were trying to steal from me. We pulled up to the medical building. "We're here, Daddy," Nia said, turning to look at me. Her voice was sweet. It was the voice she used for strangers. I just stared at her blankly until Evan got out and yanked my door open. "Come on, old man," he said, grabbing my arm. "Time for your checkup." I let him pull me out. I let myself be weak. I let myself be deaf. The waiting room was quiet, muted colors, soft music I could barely hear. They signed me in and we sat. Nia and Evan scrolled through their phones, already bored. I just sat, my hands folded in my lap, the perfect picture of a docile, fading senior. "Josiah King," the nurse called. Evan nudged me hard in the ribs. I startled, looking around wildly. He pointed toward the nurse. I stood up slowly. We went into the exam room. It smelled of antiseptic and floor wax. Dr. Klein came in wearing his white coat. He looked nervous. He didn't make eye contact with me. He shook Evan's hand. He gave Nia a brief, uncomfortable hug. "Good to see you all," he said, his voice too loud. "Josiah, how are we feeling?" He was looking right at me, expecting no answer. I just stared past him toward the wall chart of the human eye. "See?" Nia said, her voice heavy with fake sadness. "He's just gone. He barely responds to anything." "I see," Klein said, opening my file. He turned to me. "Josiah, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Just nod if you understand." I did nothing. "Josiah, can you hear me?" he asked louder. I continued to stare at the chart. Evan sighed impatiently. "He's deaf, Doc. Remember, completely deaf." Right, Klein said, flustered. He pulled out a small light and looked in my eyes. He checked my blood pressure. "Vitals seem strong," he muttered, more to himself than to them. Then came the test. He put a small cup of water on the tray table in front of me. "Josiah," he said, mouthing the words, "I want you to pick up the cup." I looked at his face. I looked at the cup. I looked at Nia. "Go on, Daddy," she cooed. "Pick up the cup." I slowly reached out my hand. I made it tremble. I let my fingers fumble against the side of the plastic cup. I knocked it. It tipped. Water spilled all over the tray, all over the floor. "Oh, for God's sake!" Evan burst out. I pulled my hand back, my eyes wide, pretending to be terrified of what I'd done. I started to make a small, distressed sound in the back of my throat. "It's okay, Daddy, it's okay," Nia said, grabbing a handful of paper towels. But her voice was sharp with anger. I looked at Klein. He was watching me not with concern but with clinical calculation. He was checking boxes on a form. He put 3 small colored blocks on the table. "Josiah," he said, pointing, "put the red block on top of the blue block." I looked at the blocks. I picked up the green block and tried to put it in my pajama pocket. No, Evan snapped, snatching the block from my hand. "The red one, on the blue one," he demonstrated. I just stared at him, my mouth slightly open. That was it. That was all Klein needed. Dr. Klein put his pen down and folded his hands on the desk. He turned his chair slightly, focusing all his attention on Nia and Evan. He was now speaking to them as if I were not in the room. This was the moment. "Well," he began, sighing heavily, "it's exactly as you described, Nia." "He's confused?" she asked, her voice laced with false hope. "It's more than confusion," Klein said, adopting a grave professional tone. "The sudden, profound hearing loss. It's a significant neurological shock. It appears to have triggered an acute onset of cognitive decline. He's not processing basic commands. He's disoriented. He's showing signs of severe dementia." I almost laughed. I, the man who had built a $35 million company from red dust and 2x4s, was being diagnosed with dementia by a man who couldn't even look me in the eye. "Based on this examination," Klein continued, "and the behavior you've reported, the wandering, the staring, the inability to manage his own affairs—" "He can't, Doctor," Evan interjected smoothly. "We've had to take over everything. Cooking bills, his medication. He doesn't even know what day it is. Right, Nia?" "It's true," Nia said, her voice catching. He's not my father anymore." I watched her. My daughter. She was a phenomenal actress. She deserved an award. She was mourning a man who was sitting right in front of her, listening to her bury him. "I'm afraid he's right, Nia," Klein said. "He's no longer the man you knew. In his current state, he is a danger to himself. He is, in my professional opinion, mentally incompetent to make his own medical or financial decisions." Mentally incompetent. There it was, the legal dagger. The words they needed to steal my life. I felt a cold, hard knot form in my stomach. This wasn't just my family. This was my doctor, a man who had taken an oath, a man I had trusted with my health for 15 years, betrayed, utterly betrayed. "So what's the next step?" Evan asked, leaning forward. He was all business now. The concerned son-in-law act was over. "We need to file for an emergency conservatorship," Klein said, pulling a prescription pad toward him. "I will write a formal letter of medical opinion stating that Mr. King lacks the capacity to manage his affairs. That's the legal ammunition you need for the court." Ammunition, I thought. What a perfect word. That's wonderful, Doctor," Nia said, her voice thick with relief. "You have no idea what a help this is." "Just doing my job," Klein said, scribbling on the pad. "Of course," Evan said, his voice dropping. "And we will naturally compensate you for this difficult consultation. The $5,000 we discussed. Will that be sufficient for your time?" $5,000. That was my price. That was the cost of my freedom. $5,000 to erase 71 years of life. Dr. Klein did not look up from his pad. "That will be fine, Evan. My assistant will handle the billing. Just make sure it's handled discreetly. We don't want any complications." "It'll be a cashier's check as soon as the bank releases the funds from the new mortgage," Evan promised. "Mortgage?" Klein asked, looking up. "On the house," Evan said. "We're taking out a line of credit to pay for his future care." "Ah, yes, of course," Klein said. He ripped the paper from the pad and handed it to Nia. It wasn't a prescription. It was my death sentence. "Here is my medical recommendation. File this with your lawyer, and you should have conservatorship within the week." "Thank you, doctor. Thank you," Nia said, clutching the paper like it was a winning lottery ticket. They stood up. Evan shook Klein's hand firmly. "You're a lifesaver, Doc." "Just take good care of him," Klein said, finally glancing at me. I met his gaze. I held it. I let him see the vacant, confused, deaf old man he had just condemned, and for a fraction of a second I saw him flinch. He saw something. He saw the log. But it was too late. He had already made his deal. Evan grabbed my arm harder than usual. "Come on, Josiah. Let's go to your new home." He was not talking about my house. He was talking about Shady Pines. When we returned from Dr. Klein's office, the house felt different. It was no longer a home. It was a holding cell. The air was thick with their victory. They had the medical opinion they needed. They had the legal ammunition. Now it was just a matter of time. Nia's fake sweetness was gone. Evan's forced cheerfulness was gone. They were all business. "Daddy let me take your phone," Nia said. Her voice was flat, her eyes cold. She did not bother to write it on the notepad. She just walked into my bedroom, found my smartphone on the nightstand, and put it in her pocket. "We've been getting so many scam calls," she said to Evan, who was standing in the doorway. "We cannot let him be taken advantage of." I just sat on the bed watching them. The helpless old man. Evan walked over to my desk. I heard the click as he unplugged the Ethernet cable from my computer. He unplugged the router from the wall. My room was now a dead zone. No calls, no emails, no internet. They had cut me off from the world. From that moment on, they never left me alone. If Nia went to the grocery store, Evan would sit in the living room pretending to watch television, but his eyes followed me every time I got up to use the bathroom. If Evan went outside to take a call, Nia would sit at the kitchen table flipping through a magazine watching me. I was a prisoner in the very house I had built for my wife. The fear, a small cold seed, began to grow. It was not just about the house anymore. They had the doctor's note. They were moving fast. They were building a legal cage around me, and they were doing it while I was sitting right in front of them, helpless. I had the knowledge. I had the truth. But I had no way to get it out. I could not call Patel. I could not access my accounts. I was trapped in my own body in my own home. They had taken my smartphone, but they had not taken my mind. I sat in my armchair by the window for hours pretending to watch the trees. But I was thinking. I was calculating. How do I get a message out? I heard Nia on the phone in the hallway. Her voice was low, excited. "Yes, Mr. Henderson. We have the medical recommendation from Dr. Klein. An emergency hearing. How soon?" "Friday." Friday. Today was Wednesday. I had less than 48 hours. My eyes scanned the street, the quiet suburban life I had built. Cars passed. A woman I did not recognize pushed a stroller. And then I saw him. 11:15 a.m. Right on schedule. The blue and white mail truck. It was Marcus. Marcus Washington. He had been delivering our mail for 3 years, but I knew him longer than that. His father, Lamont, had been my best foreman at King Co. Construction. I had known Marcus since he was a skinny kid hanging around the job site. I had given him his first summer job. When he graduated high school, I'd given him a $500 bonus and a firm handshake. He was a good kid. He was honest. He was family in a way my own blood daughter was not. He was my only shot. I looked at the clock, 11:15. He would be at my mailbox in 3 minutes. I had to move. I heard Nia and Evan in the kitchen. They were laughing. A loud, sharp laugh from Evan. "Shady Pines, baby," he said. "First thing we do is sell this ugly 70s furniture. I'm thinking modern." They were distracted. Good. I shuffled to my desk. I grabbed the notepad they used to talk to me. I tore off a sheet. My hand was shaking, but I forced the letters to be clear. "Marcus, this is Josiah King. I am a prisoner in my home. Nia and Evan are having me committed to steal my house. They lied. I am not deaf. I can hear everything. Call this number. Mr. Patel, tell him I am in danger. Urgent. Destroy this note." I went to my mattress. Underneath it, I pulled out my old flip phone, my paranoid phone, Maya used to call it. They had taken my smartphone, but they did not know about this. I grabbed a $100 bill from the emergency cash I kept taped inside an old history book. I folded the note, the money, and the phone into a small, tight package. I wrapped it all in a single tissue, making it look like a piece of trash. I looked at the clock. 11:17. I had 1 minute. I shuffled out of my room, holding the wadded-up tissue in my hand. Nia saw me from the kitchen, a spatula in her hand. "Daddy, what do you need? Lunch isn't for an hour." I shook my head, avoiding her eyes. I pointed toward the front door. I mimed pulling mail out of the mailbox. "The mail," Nia said, her voice dripping with annoyance. "Evan, he wants to get the mail. In the middle of us cooking." "I'll go," Evan said, walking out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. "You sit down, old man. I'll get it for you." "No," I grunted. It was a desperate sound. I shook my head, acting stubborn, even a little scared. I pointed at myself, then the door. I wanted to do it myself. "Oh, fine," Nia snapped from the kitchen. "Let him go. It's pathetic. What's he going to do? Run away? He can't even hear a car horn." She stood in the kitchen doorway, her arms crossed, watching my every move. Evan stood behind her. This was it. I shuffled to the front door, my heart hammering against my ribs. I pulled it open. The bright sunlight hit me. I could see Marcus's truck parked 2 houses down. He was walking this way, his mailbag slung over his shoulder. I stepped out onto the porch. Nia was watching me from the kitchen window right over the sink. I could see her silhouette. I shuffled down the walkway toward the mailbox. I opened the little metal door. I fumbled inside, pretending to look for letters. Marcus was approaching. "Afternoon, Mr. King," he said cheerfully. I turned to him. I put my finger to my lips in a shushing gesture. Then I smiled my most vacant, demented smile. Nia from the window would just see me interacting strangely with the mailman, more proof for her lawyer. I reached into my pocket for the tissue. As I pulled it out, I tripped. I stumbled forward, my arms windmilling, a small, pathetic cry escaping my lips. "Daddy!" Nia shouted from inside the house. I fell to one knee right at Marcus's feet. In that 1 second, as I braced myself on the lawn, I dropped the tissue package right by his shoe. "Whoa, Mr. King. You okay?" Marcus said, reaching down to help me. "What the hell are you doing?" Evan yelled. He was now running out of the house, his face red. I ignored Evan. I looked at Marcus. My eyes were desperate. I tapped my ear, shook my head no. Then I pointed at the tissue on the ground. I pointed at him. Marcus is smart. He worked for me. He understands efficiency. He understood this. He saw the package. In one smooth motion, as Evan ran toward us, Marcus bent down, picked up the trash, and slipped it into his mailbag. "Just dropped his mail, sir," Marcus said to Evan, his face professional and calm. "You all have a good day." He turned and walked away. "What the hell was that about?" Evan snarled, yanking me to my feet by my arm. I just looked at him, confused, deaf, and stupid. "Get inside," he snarled, dragging me back toward the house. As he pulled me up the steps, I looked over my shoulder. Marcus was at the next house. He looked back at me. He tapped the phone in his pocket. He nodded. The message was out. The clock was ticking. I stayed there frozen as Evan snarled and dragged me back inside the house. He threw me into my armchair by the window, his face inches from mine. "You try that again, old man," he hissed, "and I'll tie you to the bed. You understand me?" I kept my face blank, my eyes wide and deaf. He shoved my shoulder and stormed back to the kitchen. "The old fool tripped on the lawn," I heard him tell Nia. I heard her laugh. "Pathetic," she said. I stared out the window, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. The message was out. The bait was taken. Now I just had to pray that Marcus understood. Miles away, Marcus Washington finished his route. He sat in his mail truck, the engine off. He looked at the crumpled tissue in his hand. He unrolled it. He saw the $100 bill. He saw the strange, old-fashioned flip phone, and he read the note. "Marcus, this is Josiah King. I am a prisoner in my home. NIA and Evan are having me committed to steal my house. They lied. I am not deaf. I can hear everything. Call this number. Mr. Patel, tell him I am in danger. Urgent. Destroy this note." Marcus's blood ran cold. He knew Mr. King. His own father, Lamont, had worked for King Co. for 20 years. Mr. King wasn't just a boss. He was a legend, a good man. This had to be a joke, but the $100 bill wasn't a joke. And the look in Josiah's eyes, that was not the look of a confused old man. That was the look of a trapped animal. He immediately powered on the flip phone. He dialed the number. Across town, in a high-rise office building, Aaron Patel was in the middle of a tense merger negotiation. His private line rang. He ignored it. It rang again. He excused himself, annoyance flashing on his face. Patel speaking. "Mr. Patel, my name is Marcus Washington. I'm a mail carrier. I have a message from Mr. Josiah King." Patel's annoyance vanished. "What message is he all right?" Marcus read the note, word for word. Patel's face went white. He stood up so fast his leather chair flew backward and hit the credenza. "He said he's a prisoner and he's not deaf. No, sir, he wrote, I can hear everything. He looked terrified, sir. I didn't know what else to do." "My God," Patel whispered. It all made sense now. Nia's sudden visit last month asking vague questions about the will. Josiah missing his last 2 check-in calls. "Son," Patel said, his voice steel, "I know who your father is. You did the right thing. Forget this call happened. Destroy the note. We will handle it from here." Patel hung up. He walked back into the conference room. "Gentlemen, this meeting is over. A life-threatening emergency has come up." He was back in his office in 30 seconds, his mind racing. He was a lawyer. He needed facts. He needed to verify the threat. The note mentioned a home. He immediately thought of Shady Pines, the most expensive, exclusive facility in the state, the perfect place to hide a wealthy man. He dialed their admissions office. "Shady Pines Retreat. How may I help you?" "Yes," Patel said, his voice smooth. "This is Aaron Patel, financial advisor for the King family. I'm calling to confirm the arrangements for Mr. Josiah King." "Oh yes, Mr. Patel." The receptionist's voice was bright. "We're so excited to have him. Mrs. Nia King-Smith was just in yesterday. She was wonderful. She put down the $10,000 deposit for the premium suite. We're expecting him to be admitted this Friday." Patel felt sick. A deposit. $10,000. He hung up. It was true. Next. The doctor. He dialed Dr. Klein's private office number. "Dr. Klein's office. This is Aaron Patel, Mr. Josiah King's legal counsel. I need to speak to the doctor immediately regarding a medical document he prepared." "I'm sorry, sir," the nurse said, her voice suddenly cold. "Due to HIPAA regulations, I cannot discuss any patient information. Mr. King's designated caregiver is Mrs. Nia King-Smith. You'll have to speak with her." Patel gripped the phone. "I am his lawyer. I have power of attorney." "I have my instructions, sir. Have a good day." The line clicked. Patel slammed the phone down. "He's dirty. The doctor is dirty." Klein knew Patel had POA. Refusing to speak to him was not just a breach of protocol, it was an admission of guilt. Why the rush? It had to be money. Patel had oversight of Josiah's main investment portfolio, the $30 million fund, which was locked down tight. But what about the local accounts? The simple household account Josiah used for his modest life, the one Nia and Evan thought was his only asset. Patel logged into the bank's online portal. He had joint access to that household account for emergencies. The balance was nearly zero. He saw dozens of small, strange withdrawals. But that wasn't the worst part. He used his legal authority as POA to run a credit check on Josiah King. His eyes widened in horror. 3 new high-limit credit cards had been opened in Josiah's name in the last 3 weeks. He immediately called the fraud department. "Yes, this is Aaron Patel, POA for Josiah King. Social security number. I am looking at several charges I did not authorize." The agent on the other end was quiet for a moment. "Sir, the activity is extensive. I show a charge for $12,000 at Bahamas Getaway Cruises, an $8,000 charge at Luxury Motors for a down payment, several online gambling sites. Sir, the total outstanding balance on these new cards is $63,450. Patel finally understood. He heard Nia's voice from the recording Josiah had smuggled out. $60,000. This wasn't just greed. This was desperation. They were drowning in debt they had racked up in his name. They weren't just stealing his house. They were stealing his identity. They were setting him up to take the fall for their financial ruin. This was no longer a civil matter. This was a criminal conspiracy. Patel made one last call, not to the local precinct. He called the one person he trusted, a detective who owed him a favor. "Detective Washington, please. This is Aaron Patel." "Aaron, what's going on?" Patel did not waste time. "Maria, I have a situation. A severe case of elder abuse, active imprisonment, and high-level financial fraud." "What, who?" "Josiah King." There was a stunned silence on the other end. "Josiah King, the King co-founder. I thought he was retired and quiet." "That's what he wanted everyone to think," Patel said grimly. "His daughter and her husband are holding him prisoner in his own home. They've bribed his doctor, Dr. Klein, to declare him incompetent. They've stolen over $60,000 and they are planning to seize his assets and commit him by Friday. I have proof he is in immediate danger." "My God," Washington said. "Okay, Aaron. This is serious. We can't just knock on the door. If they think he talked, they might accelerate their plans. They'll claim he's unstable. We need to get him out." "I agree," Patel said. "He's pretending to be deaf and confused. They're arrogant. They're letting him in the yard." "Okay," the detective said. "Here's the plan. We don't send a squad car. We send me. You drive. We use your private car. We park down the street. The moment they let him out, we extract him. We get his official testimony. Then we set the trap." I had to wait until the next morning. It was the longest night of my life, but I forced myself to sleep. I needed my strength. I heard them in the kitchen around 8 a.m., the clinking of glasses. "I'm telling you, Nia," Evan's voice was loud, celebratory. "It's done. Klein's note is legal gold. By this time tomorrow, we'll be signing the mortgage application." "To us," Nia said. I heard their glasses clink. This was my chance. They were celebrating. They were distracted. I shuffled out of my room, my face set in that mask of vacant confusion. I walked right past the kitchen toward the back patio door. Nia saw me. "Daddy, where are you going?" "Breakfast is this way." I stopped. I looked at her. I pointed outside to the garden to Maya's roses. I made a small, sad sound. I pretended to be a grieving widower wanting to see his wife's flowers. "Oh, let him go," Evan said, waving his hand. "He's probably going to sit on the porch and drool. Who cares he's locked in the backyard? Let him get some sun. It'll make him look healthier for the judge tomorrow." Nia hesitated, then shrugged. "Fine. But don't be long, Daddy. We have a busy day." I nodded slowly, gratefully. I slid the glass door open and stepped out into the cool morning air. The yard was fenced, just as Evan said, but they had forgotten one thing. The gate. The flimsy wooden gate that led to the side alley. I didn't look back. I shuffled toward the roses, pretending to smell them. As soon as I was out of their line of sight from the kitchen window, I moved. I was not a 71-year-old invalid. I was a man escaping a fire. I reached the gate. My hands fumbled with the latch, not out of weakness, but pure adrenaline. I pulled it open. I slipped out into the alley. I walked fast. I did not run. Running would attract attention. I just walked, my heart pounding, turning corner after corner. I saw it. A simple black sedan parked at the end of the block, just like Patel said. The back door opened. I didn't even look at the driver. I dove in. The door slammed shut behind me. "Go, Aaron. Go," I said. Patel hit the gas. In the rearview mirror, I saw my house, my prison disappear from view. I leaned back against the seat, breathing hard. The woman in the passenger seat turned around. She was sharp, professional, with eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. King," she said. "I'm Detective Maria Washington. It's a relief to see you." Mr. Patel, my lawyer. My friend was gripping the steering wheel. Josiah, are you all right? They didn't hurt you. I'm fine, Aaron, I said. Hearing my own voice clear and strong felt strange. It felt powerful. Patel almost swerved. He looked at me in the rearview mirror, his eyes wide. Josiah, I can hear everything, I said. My hearing came back 3 weeks ago, the day they moved in. I've been pretending ever since. Detective Washington's eyes widened. You've been faking. I had to, I said. I had to know why they were there. I reached into the pocket of my old robe, the one I had worn for my escape. I pulled out the flip phone, the paranoid phone. And I heard it all, I said, handing the phone to the detective. They are drowning in debt, over $100,000, maybe more. They bribed Dr. Klein to declare me incompetent. Detective Washington took the phone, her expression grim. Bribed him. How do you know? I recorded it, I said. I was in the room. They thought I was a piece of furniture. They discussed the $5,000 payment right in front of me. They discussed the Shady Pines facility. They discussed selling my house. I then handed her the wad of tissues which contained the credit card statement they had left on the counter. And they've been stealing from me. They've racked up $60,000 in debt in my name. She flipped open the phone and started looking at the photos I had taken from Evan's laptop. The gambling debts, the threats from loan sharks, the emails to Klein. My God, Josiah, Patel said, his voice thick with rage. These are monsters. Yes, I said, they are. But they're sloppy monsters. They're arrogant. They think I'm a confused, deaf, stupid old man. They have no idea what's about to hit them. Detective Washington was silent for a full minute, her focus entirely on the phone. She pressed play on the audio file I had recorded in Dr. Klein's office. We all sat in silence, listening to the muffled but clear voices. We heard Nia's fake sadness. He's not my father anymore. We heard Evan's businesslike tone. The $5,000 we discussed. Will that be sufficient? We heard Klein's treason. I will write a formal letter of medical opinion, mentally incompetent. When the recording finished, Detective Washington clicked the phone shut. She looked at Patel. This is one of the cleanest cases of elder abuse and conspiracy I've ever seen. This recording the doctor's bribery, this is a federal crime, Mr. Patel. We have them. It's worse than you think, Detective, Patel said, his eyes fixed on the road. Worse. They're trying to steal his home and his dignity. How is it worse? Patel turned onto the main highway. You're right. They are trying to steal his house, which is valued at maybe $800,000. They're trying to get his household savings, maybe another $50,000. They are risking felony charges for less than $1 million. It's a lot of money to desperate people, Washington said. It is, Patel agreed. But that's not what they're really stealing. They just don't know it. No. I leaned forward from the back seat. Detective, my daughter, she doesn't know anything about me. My wife Maya and I, we were very fortunate in our lives. King Co-Construction was more than just a local builder. Patel took over. What Mr. King is modestly trying to say, Detective, is that his net worth is not $800,000. His net worth is just shy of $30 million. Detective Washington turned around fully in her seat. Her mouth was open. 30 million. Yes, I said. And here is the real tragedy. Maya left her entire portion in a trust for Naya, the Maya King Trust. It's worth about half of that, $15 million. It's locked tight until Naya turns 50, or until I die, or am declared legally incompetent. The realization hit the detective like a freight train. My God, they're trying to steal $800,000, but they're actually triggering a $15 million inheritance clause. Exactly, Patel said grimly. They're trying to cash in a lottery ticket without knowing the real prize. This changes everything, Detective Washington said, her voice now hard as steel. This isn't just about debt anymore. This is about millions. They are extremely dangerous. They have a hearing scheduled for Friday, Patel said. They're going to use Klein's fraudulent letter to get emergency conservatorship. No, Washington said. We're not waiting for Friday. We are going to end this now. We have the recording of the bribe. We have the financial fraud. But I want them cold, Aaron. I want them caught in the act of signing the papers. I want to see their faces when they try to sign away a $30 million fortune. What do you have in mind? I asked. They think you're still their prisoner, the detective said. They think you're deaf. We are going to use that. We are going to set a trap, and they are going to walk right into it. Patel smiled a cold, sharp smile. The bank. They mentioned going to the bank to get the mortgage. They need to access his accounts to pay Klein. Perfect, Washington said. You, Mr. Patel, are going to make a call. You are going to be the facilitator. You're going to be the helpful lawyer from Senior Guardian Services who is here to help them finalize the commitment papers and, most importantly, finalize the bank transfer. They will walk into that bank tomorrow morning expecting to steal a house, I said, feeling the ice in my own veins. The detective looked at me in the mirror. Exactly, Mr. King. And you are going to be sitting right there in your pajamas looking as deaf and confused as possible when we put the cuffs on them. We were in a small windowless office that smelled like stale coffee. Detective Washington had given it to us for the call. I was sitting at the table listening to every word on the speakerphone. Aaron Patel, my lawyer, was a master. He dialed Nia's cell phone. I heard it ring twice. Hello? Nia's voice was sharp, impatient. Patel's voice instantly changed. He became smooth, bureaucratic, almost tired. Am I speaking with Mrs. Nia King-Smith? Yes. Who is this? My name is Mr. Harrison with Senior Guardian Services. I'm a state facilitator for elder care transitions. We're calling regarding the file submitted by Dr. Klein for your father, Mr. Josiah King. I heard Nia's breath catch. Her tone shifted instantly to one of exaggerated sweet concern. Oh yes, Mr. Harrison. Thank you for calling. We've been so worried. Is everything in order? We're processing the file now, Patel said. Dr. Klein's medical recommendation is quite clear. Acute cognitive decline. A very sad case. We're fast-tracking his admission to the Shady Pines facility. We just need to finalize the admission paperwork. We will need Mr. King to sign the intake forms. Patel dangled the bait. I held my breath. I heard Nia let out a long, frustrated sigh. That's the problem, Mr. Harrison. We can't. I'm sorry, Patel asked, playing his part. The forms are mandatory. No, you don't understand, Nia cut him off. Her voice dropped into that fake, weepy tone she had used on the doctor. He can't sign. He's gone. He's just not there anymore. He is completely deaf, of course, but he's also completely senile. He spills his food. He doesn't recognize us half the time. He wouldn't even know he was holding a pen, much less what he was signing. She was painting the picture for him. She was in her own greedy way confessing to the lie. Oh dear, Patel said, sounding sympathetic. That is a complication. Dr. Klein's report indicated severe decline, but if he's truly non-responsive, we have a different situation. We cannot admit him without a legal guardian's signature. We're filing for conservatorship on Friday, Nia said, her voice rising in panic. She was afraid the prize was slipping away. We have the doctor's note. Isn't that enough? Detective Washington, sitting in the corner, allowed herself a small, cold smile. Mrs. King-Smith, please calm down, Patel said. Normally, yes, but the facility requires a significant down payment to hold the premium suite Dr. Klein recommended. Our service cannot authorize the transfer of funds from his accounts until the conservatorship is finalized. We're in a bit of a legal bind. He let the silence stretch. He made her find the solution. But what if we sign? Nia asked, her voice a desperate whisper. My husband and I. We're his only family. We are the ones filing the petition. Can't we sign for him? That's a possibility, Patel mused as if thinking. A strong possibility. If you as the petitioners sign the intake forms and the financial authorization, we could probably proceed. We would just need to do it in a formal setting. We need to verify his condition and witness your signature on the financial transfer. Transfer? Evan's voice suddenly cut in. He must have been listening on speaker. What financial transfer? Ah, Mr. Smith, I assume, Patel said. Yes, the financial transfer. Shady Pines requires a $50,000 down payment for the first year of premium care. It's standard procedure for high net worth individuals. I heard a sharp intake of breath. $50,000. That was the magic number. That was the money they owed the loan shark. 50,000, Evan said. We don't just have $50,000. Of course not, Patel said, his voice a soothing balm. The funds would come from Mr. King's account. We simply need to facilitate the transfer. The simplest way to do this is to meet at his primary bank tomorrow morning. You can sign the guardianship intake forms and the financial transfer authorization at the same time. The bank staff can witness everything. It's clean, it's legal, and it gets your father the care he needs immediately. He was offering them everything they wanted, the commitment, the money, all wrapped in a bow of bureaucratic procedure. I heard muffled whispering on their end. Evan. I could almost hear his tiny brain working. $50,000. That would pay off the loan shark. It would pay for Dr. Klein. It would solve all his problems. Where at the bank? Nia asked. The main branch downtown. Say, 9 a.m. We will have a private conference room. You just need to bring your father. Bring him. Nia sounded surprised, almost annoyed. Yes, Patel said smoothly. It's a non-negotiable formality. We just need to have him physically present so the bank can verify his identity before you sign for him. Given his condition as you've described it, it won't take long at all. There was another longer pause, more whispering. They were deciding, they were biting the hook. Evan came on the line. His voice was no longer tense, it was smooth. It was the voice of a man who just won the lottery. 9 a.m. at the main branch. That's perfect, Mr. Harrison. Absolutely perfect. Oh, Patel asked, playing dumb. Why is that? Well, Evan said, and I could hear the arrogant smirk in his voice. We also have a meeting with a mortgage officer there anyway, about the house. We can take care of all our family business at once. It's very efficient. Efficient. The word he used when he dragged me back from the lawn. How wonderful when things work out, Patel said. His voice was pure honey, but I knew him. It was laced with poison. We will see you tomorrow at 9. Please make sure Mr. King is comfortable. Oh, we will, Nia said, her sweet voice back. We'll take excellent care of him. The line clicked. Patel put the phone down. He looked at Detective Washington. She looked at me. They took the bait, she said. They took the whole rod and reel, Patel added. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., I said, my voice quiet. They think they're coming to sign away my life. They think they're coming to collect $50,000 and an $800,000 house. I stood up from my chair. I looked at Patel, my oldest friend, and at the detective who was going to give me justice. They have no idea, I said, that they're actually coming to lose $30 million. The trap was set. Now all the log had to do was show up. The next morning, Detective Washington drove me to the bank. Mr. Patel met us at the service entrance. Josiah, are you ready for this? Patel asked. His face was grim. I just nodded. I was not Josiah King, the millionaire. I was the log. I was the fool. I let my shoulders slump. I let my mouth hang slightly open. I put on the old stained pajamas I had escaped in. I was the image of a man broken by life. Detective Washington put a hand on my shoulder. We're ready. The conference room is wired for audio and video. My officers are in place, one dressed as a bank security guard, the other as a branch assistant. They will not move until I give the signal. You are perfectly safe. I nodded, my eyes vacant. Patel guided me by the elbow through the bank's main floor. I shuffled my feet. I stared at the floor. We entered the large glass conference room. Washington, now security, stood in the corner. The other officer, bank staff, sat at the far end of the table. Patel sat me down in a chair. Just wait here, Mr. King, he said, using that loud, slow voice everyone uses for the deaf. I sat. I stared at the water pitcher on the polished table. I was calm. I was focused. I had built a company from nothing. I had faced down union bosses, hostile takeovers, and corrupt inspectors. This was just family business. At 9 a.m. on the dot, the door opened. They walked in. Evan led the way, wearing his best suit, a sharkskin gray thing I recognized. He looked like he owned the place. Nia followed, wearing a sharp black dress, her hair pulled back tight. She looked severe. She looked hungry. And behind them, Dr. Klein, clutching his briefcase, his eyes darting around the room. They saw me in the corner in my dirty pajamas, staring at the water pitcher. I heard Evan's low chuckle. I heard Nia whisper, "Oh my God, Evan, did you have to bring him in that?" Evan whispered back, "It's perfect. It sells the whole story. Look at him. He's half dead already." Dr. Klein just looked at me, then quickly looked away. He was ashamed. He was weak. Aaron Patel, my lawyer of 30 years, stood up. He looked like a stranger. He wore a generic gray suit and glasses. He was Mr. Harrison from Senior Guardian Services. "Mrs. King Smith, Mr. Smith, doctor. Thank you for coming," Patel said, his voice flat and bureaucratic. "Mr. Harrison," Evan said, shaking his hand, exuding false charm. "Thank you for expediting this. It's a difficult time. We just want what's best for my father-in-law." "Of course," Patel said. "Please sit." They all sat down at the table opposite me. They were the panel of judges. I was the broken old man on trial. They didn't even recognize Aaron Patel. Why would they? They had never been involved in my real life, my real business. They only knew the log. Patel opened his briefcase. "As discussed, we have a few documents to finalize the transition of care for Mr. King. We want to make this as smooth as possible." I continued to stare at the water pitcher. I let out a small, quiet groan as if I were in some discomfort. I saw Nia flinch. She hated it when I made noise. "First," Patel said, sliding a thick stack of papers across the table toward Nia and Evan. "These are the intake forms for the Shady Pines Premium Suite. It details the level of care the facility rules and, of course, the liability waivers. We'll need your signatures as the petitioning guardians." "Fine," Evan said, grabbing the stack. "Second," Patel continued, "the medical certification from Dr. Klein. Doctor, you said you had your official recommendation." "Yes," Klein said, opening his own briefcase. He pulled out a single sheet of paper. He was proud of his betrayal. "This is my formal evaluation. It confirms Mr. King's state of, cognitive decline and his inability to manage his own affairs." He slid the paper over. "Excellent," Patel said, adding it to the pile. "Which brings us to the third and fourth items." He pulled out 2 more documents. "This," he said, tapping the first one, "is the emergency conservatorship petition citing medical necessity, which will legally allow you, Mr. Smith and Mrs. King Smith, to sign on his behalf. It grants you full authority over his person and his estate." Evan's eyes lit up. His estate. He was practically salivating. "And finally," Patel said, tapping the last paper, "the bank authorization form. This allows the bank to release the $50,000 down payment from Mr. King's household account directly to the Shady Pines holding account." He laid all 4 documents out like a feast. "It's all in order," Evan said, his voice thick with greed. "Where do we sign?" Patel handed him a pen. "You and your wife will sign the conservatorship petition first, right here and here." Evan grabbed the pen. He didn't even read the document. He just signed his name with a long, arrogant flourish. He pushed the paper toward Nia. "Nia, baby, you sign." Nia picked up the pen, and then she hesitated. She looked at the paper. She looked at her husband, and then she looked at me. I met her gaze. I held it. My face was blank, deaf, confused. But I let my eyes speak. "Don't do this, Nia. This is the last line. Don't cross it. Remember who you are. Remember your mother. Remember me." She stared at me. Her hand was trembling. "What's wrong?" Evan snapped. "Sign the damn thing." I just," she whispered. I knew I had to push her. I knew I had to break her. I reached out my trembling hand toward the water pitcher. I moaned a low, guttural sound. Maya," I said, pretending to call for my dead wife. Then with a clumsy flick of my wrist, I knocked the cup over. Water spilled across the polished table. That was it. The spell was broken. Nia's face hardened. The brief moment of humanity was gone, replaced by that familiar cold annoyance. "Oh, for God's sake," she hissed. She looked away from me, grabbed the pen, and signed her name. She had just disowned herself. She had just chosen her own fate. "Wonderful," Patel said. "Now, Dr. Klein, your signature on the medical verification, if you please." Klein signed. "And finally," Patel said, sliding the bank transfer authorization over, "the $50,000 transfer. This authorizes the bank to release the funds." Evan signed it without a moment's hesitation. "Done," he said, tossing the pen down. "Clean and legal. Now about that mortgage on the house. Can we talk to your manager about that?" "Just one moment," Patel said. He calmly gathered all the signed papers. He tapped them into a neat stack. He stood up. The trap was sprung. The rats were caught. Mr. Patel calmly, methodically gathered the signed papers. He stacked them into a neat pile. The conservatorship petition, the fraudulent medical certification, the $50,000 bank transfer. He looked up not at Nia or Evan, but at the security guard standing in the far corner of the room. He gave a single slow nod. The door to the conference room swung open. It was not a bank manager. Detective Maria Washington entered, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers. Her badge was now hanging clearly from a chain on her neck. She held a set of papers in her hand. Nia King Smith, Evan Smith, Dr. Robert Klein. She said, her voice clear and strong, cutting through the smug silence of the room. You are all under arrest. The security guard in the corner stepped forward, blocking Evan's path. The bank assistant at the end of the table stood up, revealing the badge on his belt, and moved to cover the door. They were trapped. Evan leaped to his feet. What the hell is this? Who are you? You can't just barge in here. Dr. Klein just froze. His face went a sick, chalky white. He looked like he was going to be physically ill. Nia looked wildly between Detective Washington and Mr. Patel, her mind unable to connect the dots. Mr. Harrison, she said, her voice trembling. What is this? What is going on? Is this some kind of joke? Detective Washington took a step forward. This is not a joke, ma'am. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit felony elder abuse, financial fraud, and conspiracy to commit medical malfeasance. Nia's confusion instantly evaporated, replaced by a hot, shrieking rage. You can't arrest us, she yelled. We haven't done anything wrong. We're the victims here. We are trying to help him. She wheeled around and pointed at me. I was still slumped in the corner, still the log in the dirty pajamas. Look at him, she screamed at the officers, her voice cracking with hysteria. He's sick. He's senile. He's deaf. We're his family. We are trying to get him the care he needs. You don't understand. We have the doctor's recommendation. Ma'am, we understand perfectly, Detective Washington said. No, you don't, Nia shrieked. He's incompetent. We have the papers. We just signed them. We are protecting him. Evan tried to make a move, lunging for the stack of signed documents on the table. You can't take those, he roared. Those are our private legal documents. You have no right. The officer who had posed as the bank assistant intercepted Evan's arm, spinning him around and pinning him against the wall with a force that knocked the breath out of him. Sir, I need you to place your hands behind your back, now. This is police brutality, Evan choked out. It's an arrest, Mr. Smith, Washington said. Dr. Klein had his head in his hands. Oh my God, he muttered over and over. I didn't know. Nia was sobbing, but they were tears of pure panic. She looked at Detective Washington, her face a mess. Detective, please listen to me. He's my father. He's confused. He's lost. We are trying to protect his assets. We're trying to stop him from hurting himself. He can't even hear you. The room fell silent except for Nia's frantic sobs. The officers hesitated. All eyes turned to me, the frail, pathetic old man in the corner. I sighed. It was a long, slow, audible sigh. Nia stopped crying. Mid-sob. She heard it. Her head snapped toward me. I slowly placed my hands on the arms of the chair. I was no longer the slumped invalid. I pushed myself up. I stood tall, my back straight. I looked at the officers. I looked at Patel. I looked at Klein, who was now staring at me from the floor, having stumbled backward and knocked over his chair. And then I looked at my daughter. I spoke. My voice was not the groan of a confused old man. It was the clear, deep baritone that had commanded boardrooms for 40 years. It was the voice of Josiah King. No, Nia. The sound hit her like a physical force. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes, wide with panic, now filled with a dawning animal terror I will never forget. She recognized that voice. It was the voice of her father. Evan stopped struggling against the officer. He went completely slack-jawed, his face as pale as death. He understood immediately. He had not just been caught. He had been played. It's impossible, Klein stammered from the floor. Your nerves, you were... I was what, doctor? I said, my voice cutting through the stunned silence. Non-responsive, confused, mentally incompetent. Am I speaking clearly enough for you now? Klein just shook his head, speechless. I turned my full attention back to my daughter. She was shaking her head, whispering, no, 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 as if she could rewind time. I took a single step toward her. I repeated, my voice echoing in the polished conference room, that you are under arrest. Evan found his voice first. It was a choked whisper. You heard us. In the house. You heard us. I heard every word, I said. I have not been deaf for 3 weeks, Nia. My hearing returned the very morning you and Evan moved in to take care of me. I let that sink in. I watched her face crumble as she replayed the last few weeks in her mind. Every whispered conversation, every insult, every secret. I heard you call me a log, I said, my voice cold. I heard you complain that I was stupid. I heard you and Evan plan how to get my signature. I heard you plot to prove I was incompetent just so you could steal this house and pay your $60,000 credit card bill. I turned to Evan. I heard you, Evan, talking about your gambling debts and the loan shark who was going to break your legs. I turned to Dr. Klein, who was now being helped to his feet by an officer. I heard you, doctor, accept a $5,000 bribe to sell my sanity. I faced my daughter again. I heard you, Nia, agree to put your own father in Shady Pines. I heard every single treacherous, greedy word. Detective Washington picked up the small flip phone. She pressed play on the audio file labeled Dr. Klein. The tinny, muffled sound of my own doctor's voice filled the conference room. Acute cognitive decline. He's not processing basic commands, mentally incompetent to make his own medical or financial decisions. Then Evan's voice, slick and conspiratorial. Compensate you for this. This difficult consultation. The $5,000 we discussed. Will that be sufficient for your time? And finally, Klein sealing his fate. That will be fine, Evan. My assistant will handle the billing. Just make sure it's handled discreetly. Dr. Klein, who had been muttering, I didn't know, simply stopped. He let out a low, pathetic moan and slid down the wall until he was sitting on the polished floor, his career over. That, I said, my voice cutting through the silence, was the sound of my doctor selling my sanity for $5,000. I looked at Nia. She was trembling. But you didn't stop there, did you? I turned to Detective Washington again. Detective, the file named Kitchen Confession. She pressed play. Nia's own voice, sharp and cold, filled the room. Oh, $60,000, Evan. Where are we going to get that? Then Evans. We'll get it from the house. As soon as the house is ours. I stopped the recording myself, reaching over to the detective's desk. The click of the button was the only sound. I have every text message you sent to your creditors, Evan, I said, looking at him as he strained against the officer's grip. I have the emails you sent to the loan shark, the one who was going to break your legs. I have the bank statements for the $63,000 in credit card debt you racked up. In my name. I have the deposit confirmation for Shady Pines. I have the signed fraudulent documents right here on this table. I have all of it. Nia was hyperventilating, her eyes wide with a terror I had never seen before. She was looking at me, but she wasn't seeing her father. She was seeing something else. A stranger. A ghost. But, she stammered, her gaze darting around the bank at the officers at Patel. Why would you do all this? She pointed at me, her fingers shaking. The house, it's just a house. We needed help. We're your family. Even now, even caught and condemned by her own voice, she still didn't get it. She still thought this was about a modest suburban house. She still thought my entire world, my entire worth was contained in that $800,000 piece of property. I looked at her, and the anger I felt was so profound it almost became pity. She was my daughter, my blood, and she knew nothing about me. Her entire world was this small, desperate grab for cash. I almost laughed. The sound that came out of my chest was cold and dry like rattling stones. The house, I said. You did all of this. For the house. I looked at Evan, who was now sweating, his cheap suit stained, his shark-like confidence completely gone. I said, my voice low and dangerous. You ruined my daughter. You came into my family and you poisoned her. You lost $40,000 on foolish gambles and $60,000 more on things you couldn't afford, and you were willing to commit a felony to destroy 3 lives for $800,000. I shook my head slowly. You are fools, I said. You are small-time thieves with small, pathetic dreams. Nia shrieked. What are you talking about? That house is all you have. It's all we have. Kingco Construction went bust years ago. You've just been living on savings. You're poor. Is that what you think? I asked. Is that what you truly believe? I looked at her, my daughter. 42 years old. She had lived in my shadow, eaten at my table, breathed my air, and she had never once, not once, bothered to find out who I am. Bust, I said. You thought King Co went bust, Nia. I didn't retire because the company failed. I retired because I had won. I sold the company. I sold it for a price you cannot even comprehend. Nia just stared, her mind refusing to accept it. You're lying, she whispered. You're lying to hurt us. Was I lying about the recordings? I asked. Was I lying about Dr. Klein? I was done talking to them. They were beneath my contempt. I turned to the only man in the room who had ever known the real me, the man they had mistaken for a state bureaucrat. Mr. Patel. Aaron Patel stood up. He adjusted the cuffs of his expensive tailored suit. The mild-mannered Mr. Harrison was gone. This was Aaron Patel, my legal counsel, my financial executor, and my oldest friend. Yes, Josiah, he said, his voice now sharp, clear, and dripping with authority. My daughter, I said, gesturing toward Nia with a wave of my hand, seems to be under the impression that my entire net worth is tied up in a single-family home in the suburbs. Nia, Patel said, addressing her directly for the first time. His voice was cold, formal. You don't recognize me, do you? I've been managing your father's estate and your trust since you were in high school. Nia's face went blank. My trust. Yes, Patel said. He picked up his own briefcase, which had been sitting by his chair, and snapped it open. He didn't pull out forms. He pulled out a thick, leather-bound portfolio embossed with the King family crest. Your mother Maya was a brilliant woman, Patel said. She was also prescient. She knew you had a weakness for, shall we say, poor judgment, especially regarding partners. He shot a withering look at Evan, who was now being held in a chair by an officer. She set up a trust in your name, the Maya King Trust. Your father has managed it, protected it, and grown it for over 2 decades. It was to be yours free and clear upon his death, or... Patel paused, letting the words hang in the silent room. Or upon him being declared legally incompetent. Nia's eyes widened. She understood. Evan's frantic online research. He hadn't just been looking for conservatorship laws. He had been hunting for this. He must have found some mention of it, some trace. This was his real prize. The trust, Nia whispered, her voice barely audible. How much? Patel looked down at the portfolio. As of the close of markets yesterday, the Maya King Trust, the inheritance you were set to receive upon declaring your father incompetent, holds a net value of $30,450,000. The number just stopped. The air left the room. It was so quiet I could hear the hum of the bank's security cameras. 30 million! Nia's voice was a choked squeak. Evan looked like he had been shot. He understood. He had been playing for the House League, but he had just lost the Super Bowl without even knowing he was on the field. And one final clause, Nia, Patel said, his voice merciless. Your mother was very specific. He opened the portfolio and read from the first page. Should the beneficiary Nia King Smith participate in or be found criminally complicit in any act of fraud, coercion, or physical harm against the executor and her beloved husband Josiah King, she is to be permanently and irrevocably disinherited. All assets of the trust shall revert in full to the King Family Foundation for the protection of elders. Patel closed the portfolio. The sound was like a gunshot. You just signed a confession, Nia, Patel said. You signed this conservatorship petition based on medical fraud which you bribed a doctor to produce. You have officially, legally, and permanently disinherited yourself. Nia didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just made a small, strange sound like air escaping a balloon. Her eyes rolled back in her head and she collapsed, fainting dead away onto the polished floor of the bank conference room. She had just realized. She hadn't just lost the house. She had just thrown away $30 million, all to pay off a $60,000 debt. The moment the officer's cold steel cuff snapped around Nia's wrist, the last thread of her composure broke. She lunged, not at me, but at her husband. "This is your fault!" she shrieked, her voice a raw animal sound. "You and your debts. Your gambling. You ruined me. You forced me to do this. I never wanted to. He's my father." Evan, his face purple with rage as an officer pinned his arms, spat back at her. Me. It was your idea to call Klein. It was your idea to push for the house. You were just as greedy as I was. You wanted your $30 million payday. Dr. Klein, the man who had sold his soul for $5,000, simply wept. He didn't say a word. He just made a low, pathetic moaning sound as an officer pulled him to his feet. I didn't know, he whimpered. I just thought. Get them out of here, detective, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the chaos. I was tired. I was so tired of the noise. The officers grabbed them. Naya went limp, sobbing hysterically as they dragged her past me. Daddy, please, I didn't mean it. Daddy, don't let them take me. Please, I'm your daughter. Her cries followed her out of the room, echoing down the marble hallway of the bank. Evan just cursed a stream of filth and blame directed at everyone but himself. And then the conference room door clicked shut. There was silence. The true, real silence of the aftermath. Not the false, suffocating silence of my feigned deafness. Mr. Patel put a hand on my shoulder. His grip was firm. It's done, Josiah. I nodded. I stood there in my dirty pajamas in a bank conference room surrounded by police officers who were respectfully avoiding my gaze. I had won. I had gotten justice for Maya. I had protected my legacy. But I had just sent my only child, my daughter, to prison. The victory tasted like ash in my mouth. I had lost her the moment she saw me as a log, the moment she saw me as an obstacle, the moment she saw me as a payday. The trial months later was a formality. The audio recordings were undeniable. The bank documents were absolute. The signed papers from that day in the conference room were the nails in their coffins. Nia and Evan, in a desperate final attempt to save themselves, turned on each other on the stand. They revealed every ugly secret, every cowardly plan, every single greedy thought, each one painting the other as the mastermind. It was a pathetic, disgusting spectacle. The jury was out for less than an hour. Nia was sentenced to 8 years in state prison for conspiracy to commit felony elder abuse. Evan got 10 for the fraud and the gambling debts attached. Dr. Klein lost his medical license, his reputation, and his freedom. He was sentenced to 3 years for medical fraud and accepting a bribe. The first thing I did as a free man was sell the house. I couldn't live there anymore. The memories of Maya, of raising Nia, of our life together, they were all tainted. They were poisoned by the whispers I had heard in those last 3 weeks. I sold it, and I didn't look back. The $30 million the Maya King Trust, I did exactly what Maya's will stipulated. Since Nia was now a convicted felon who had acted against her executor, she was irrevocably disinherited. So I activated the King Family Foundation, but I changed its name. It's now the Maya King Foundation for the Protection of Elders. We hunt down predators just like them. We provide pro bono legal aid to seniors who are being abused, silenced, and stolen from by their own families. We find the snakes in the grass, we find the Dr. Kleins, and we cut off their heads. I visited Nia in prison. Once. Only once. She sat across from me, separated by thick glass. Her hair was lank and dull. Her eyes were empty. She wore a dull orange jumpsuit that hung off her frame. "Was it worth it, Dad?" she whispered into the receiver. I looked at my daughter, this stranger who wore her face. Was what worth it, Nia? The money. She said, her voice cracking. Was it worth more than me? I stood up. I had nothing left to say. I always loved you, Nia. Unconditionally, I said, my voice steady. That money was always meant for you. That was the tragedy of it. But you were the one who put a price on that love. You calculated wrong. You were so desperate to steal $800,000 that you set fire to $30 million. That wasn't my choice. That was yours. I placed the receiver back on the hook. I walked out of that prison, and I did not look back. I had lost my daughter, but I had reclaimed my life. And I finally understood what Maya always knew. Sometimes the only way to protect the people you love is to protect yourself from them. This story teaches us a brutal lesson. Greed is a blindfold. Nia and Evan were so obsessed with the small prize they could see the house that they failed to see the immense fortune they were already entitled to. They underestimated the quiet, helpless man they were trying to rob, never realizing he was the one holding all the power. Their betrayal, built on a foundation of lies and arrogance, didn't just fail. It backfired spectacularly, costing them not only their freedom, but the very wealth they were willing to destroy a family to get. What would you have done if you were in Josiah's shoes? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories where justice is finally served.